Hello and welcome to AI Marketing CEO Chats. And I'm Scott Sweeney, and I'm here with my co-founder from AI Content Gen, John Cass.
Thanks, Scott. Great to be here again.
And today we're speaking with Francesco Magnocavallo. I hope I said that right, Francesco.
Yeah, Scott, don't worry. It's okay. It's a long name.
And he is the Chief Product Officer at contents.com. And today we're going to be talking AI marketing and learning more about what contents.com can do for you. And so thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's great to be speaking with you for the public.
And so we're going to get right into it. We want a little bit of background first. Francesco, you have a very, very interesting background. Looking through your LinkedIn, I saw that not only did you do some content for Hearst Communications and luxury brands, but the dichotomy of spending 10 years in hip hop in Milan is really interesting. And I'm just wondering how all that melds into you and your AI journey and where you are now.
Yeah, so I figure basically it's always been about creating content. So I had the opportunity and the luck of meeting pioneers in hip hop like Phase 2. He's been in Milan, we've been friends for years, and learning, a very different kind of writing. That was wild style writing, a personal alphabet nobody really can replicate, and that's coming from your soul. It's not even so it's very different. So there was crazy times getting to know this culture, this great culture, and then doing some systems. So basically, this was really multimedia at heart, and doing freestyle, just getting your soul out. And later, through doing websites, I got into content, and I'm fond of remembering the very early days of blogging, like year 2000, 2001. The atmosphere was very different. Everybody was a developer then in blogging. It was easy to learn. You could study, IBM stuff, materials, the early days of content designs. That was great in learning your way around content, great times. Then when blogs exploded, we launched the company. It was a clone of Gawker Media and Webless Incorporated, the two big companies publishing a Gadget, Gizmodo, and all that stuff. And we eventually sold the company. So I remember I launched something like one blog every month for 5 or 6 years. That was crazy times. We had 1,000 authors writing for us in all. And then we sold the company. I did some consulting and ended up at Hearst, where I spent 6 years doing digital strategy and launching the digital operation for 6 or 7 websites. And I think I had the privilege of launching Esquire magazine in Italy and Harper's Bazaar. So Harper's Bazaar is a 150 years old brand. That's something, it's even, difficult to think about this because there's so much history in there. And the company now has got incredible infrastructure and strategy in New York. So it was very interesting times as well.
Francesco, I've worked in the custom content industry as well, and that's basically the custom content industry is the magazine industry, either public magazines or private corporate ones. And one of the things that I found, although I'm a digital guy, I was working with those magazine editors and writers. I found the discipline of that industry to be really interesting because to me, it was, as a digital guy, almost like writing an entire website in a month when you're changing a magazine every month. How did that discipline affect you and how you think about content?
Yeah, I think this is a great concept indeed, because the more the free the ecosystem and the more possibilities you have, the more discipline you need, the more strategy. So this is very true for digital as well. What I learned at Hearst magazine was really journalism in the sense of not really highbrow, but high quality journalism. There was some highbrow content we published at Esquire magazine, but doing really premium quality stuff. And that's something I learned the hard way with print journalism, doing digital transformation, which is a very difficult activity. It's sometimes it was really rough to deal with people with a very different languages, different, a very different mindset, different professionals. Everything was very, the two sides, the digital and the print, merging the two sides was incredibly demanding task.
I can see that, Francesco. And I think in many ways, AI content generation has a lot to do with digital transformation too. So it's not just about the tools, but it's about the process. So let's kind of move into that. I don't know if you'd agree with that, but feel free to comment on that. Tell us a little bit, if you want, more about your AI journey, but then let's go in and talk a little bit about contents.com.
Yeah, yes. So Massimiliano, our founder and executive officer, we were acquaintances from 10 years ago. And when he see me feeling for openings on the market, he ended up thinking I was the right person to bring some journalistic mindset to work and design the system with the engineers. So he chose not to have a journalistic system designed by engineers, but by a journalist. So that was, my point of view. And I think it's been really rewarding working with my data science team, my colleagues in data science. That's very interesting. So then we added a computational linguist. And I think by the time we started merging and having a common framework and languages, things really improved a lot. So when I speak to clients in meetings with my sales colleagues, I find that I often speak the same language because I had the same problems, the same workflows that the journalists have. And so it's very easy to bring something that creates value for them with automation, basically.
And Francesco, what perhaps we could get into the service or the software. What are the capabilities of the software? What does it do?
Yeah, so Scott mentioned that you need workflows. You obviously need some technology, and we work with OpenAI, by the way, but you also need talent. So what is the defining characteristic of contents.com is that we blend human talent with technology. So we try to get the best of both worlds. That's a very basic concept in AI, assisted or human in the loop. So basically, the company had a copywriting marketplace from a few years ago, and it kind of went out of fashion. You cannot really speak about this sort of product with VC anymore because it's very old. But it's coming back as a strategic point because you can have a finishing layer and have the machine designed by a journalist and finished by a journalist. So I think this is going to be a very interesting concept. If you've been reading the Andreessen Horowitz magazine, there's this article that came out just a couple of days ago, and this is their point. So there's going to be a deluge in AI content, and we don't really know what Google is going to do in a couple of years or next year. So having a sort of blended approach where it's AI, but it's human, definitely makes some sense. So this is a key concept. And in terms of a service we provide to the client can often choose to have just a human professional working on his content, just a machine if he wants to make it cheap and quick, or a blend. So this is something that's very different because it's kind of easy nowadays to just build a front end on OpenAI or any other language model of your choice and build a little pipeline to do some pre-processing, but really to have a complex system. That's I think that creates a different scenario.
That's very interesting, Francesco, and I love the approach because as we know, many times you can't. You never can just tell a machine what to write and have it come out perfect, right? So you need some inputs and you need some massaging. Tell us, I think everyone can understand human writing and everyone can understand the machine writing. How does the blend work?
Yeah, so it's planned by workflows, basically. So what we have and we're gonna improve and build and invest in is newsroom workflows, basically. So a full system where there's roles, there's teams, and there's the process of commissioning a piece, commenting on a piece, reviewing the draft and approving it and publishing. So the last mile in the system is connectors to the CMS. So you see, we currently have a WordPress and a Shopify connector. We're building an Adobe connector for an enterprise large project with a big consulting firm. And so it's really a lot of different pieces that makes for to have something that's not easy to replicate. You know, that's kind of like our moat, our defensive moat. It's so complex. It's kind of a hassle. You cannot replicate it fast.
Excellent. And so as you look out at the AI landscape, where do you see the strength of contents lying as opposed to other systems?
Yeah, I'm sure there's some room in Europe because we got all these languages. I don't want to speak about Africa because they got thousands of languages, but in Europe we got a few dozen, so that's a lot anyway. Under this respect, we're building native datasets, and one of the characteristics is many competitors, they just translate everything from English because large language models, they're mostly proficient in English. There's a few great projects in Europe at the moment, but it's still something that's need to evolve a little bit. So we got French, Spanish, and Italian dataset, and the language model is working natively in those languages. So this is something where I think we can be strong because we work with datasets in 4 different languages at the moment. And that's also something that takes a little time, it takes a little love to have journalists working on this. We don't really just scrape data from the internet. Everything is, you know, manually edited and proofread and worked on.
Let's go through some quick rapid fire questions, Francesco. Perhaps we can ask a couple of questions about how you support the client's, content strategy team approach around some of the following areas. How about ideas and research?
Yes, so the idea of the founder was to have a suite of services covering the whole customer journey. So basically a content strategy journey going from media monitoring, and we got a pocket solution that I think is nifty because it's got a very strong signal to noise ratio. You can, it doesn't require you to spend the money of one of the enterprise or mid-market competitors, which usually costs from 100 or 200 to a few thousand a month. And of course, it's working across languages with NLP, so across industries, keywords, entities. It's fairly basic stuff. Then we got a brainstorming service, which is basically a text box where you can work with a language model and do semantic search tasks, which is very new. And I think this is going to be the future of search. So not just getting 10 links, but getting, you know, a proper original answer to your search. So this is also where we can peek inside the mind of clients and get a little fresh data to see what's going on, what's the needs and the pain points and the jobs to be done. Then, of course, the main service is content creation, where we can do copywriting in, as I mentioned before, in assisted, mixed, hybrid, purely human or purely machine. We got a couple of different input styles. So one is the instruct, the OpenAI GPT-3 instruct model. So it's natural language, and clients like this a lot. The possibility of input, having natural language input. I want an article like this and that. They enjoy this. But the other one is a purely SEO routine. So basically you input a keyword and we do some sort of data science that's doing gap analysis with competitors and building an outline for for the article that's geared to generate organic traffic on Google. Then we got translations. Again, you can do this with machines or humans. And we're moving into multimodal. Of course, this is the big research race at the moment between the large companies. So we're gonna start at the beginning of September. So I don't know when this interview is going to be published, but starting from September, we're going to sell text-to-image services and image manipulation services. And we're in the process of refreshing the audio services. So basically, we can do a basic speech-to-text. That's a utility. But there's a lot going on in text-to-speech. So you can go to the very high-end Hollywood-level voiceover, or you can do many different types of services with synthetic voices. And so I'm very interested in this. And some of the clients, we began speaking about this topic in July. They're very interested because that's very glamorous, that's hype. They can speak to clients about something that's cool and nobody has at the moment. So basically, that's the suite of services at the moment.
That's very broad. I'm really impressed. And I noticed that you're hiring for someone that's going to be using DALL-E 2 very soon too.
Yeah, we're hiring for DALL-E 2. Yeah. And that's very interesting because the ideal candidate is somebody who knows about photography, illustration, graphic design. So it's really, it's very generalized across visual disciplines. And I think we got an incredible deck for Italy at the moment. It's going out in a couple of weeks to our sales team. So this is very, very, very promising.
That's very exciting. I've been playing with DALL-E too. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Excellent. John, do you have any more rapid fire questions that you want to follow up on, or is
well, you covered a lot of it, Francesco.
Yes.
I did wonder about expansion and metrics. Expansion would be perhaps doing the general AI content generation, but then maybe for social media or something like that, splitting content up. Do you have any aspects of that?
Yeah, when you mention metrics, I think this is very interesting for the geeks, of the NLP geeks and the NLG geeks, because actually this is evolving so fast. There's often no coded KPIs for NLG. If you go into research, the preprint papers, there's no real standard at the moment. So I think this is very interesting, and we're working a lot on KPIs for the quality of machine translation of NLG. This goes from very basic like syntax, grammar, the flair or journalistic flair, which is very difficult to digitize, to compile the metric, because it's the most difficult. To plagiarism, there's a lot of to similarity of translations, the quality of translation. So I think this is a very interesting area of benchmarking and having common KPIs for NLG, because often you see, as I said before, it's very easy to build a system, but the large language model will just give you an average input. That's not enough for clients if they're demanding. So I remember a computational linguist, we were working in this winter, relaunching the product, and this was scheduled for spring. So one day we were testing different pipelines, different data sets, different models, with OpenAI having just an incredible acceleration around the end and the beginning of the year. And one day she came and said, "Hey, Francesco, we jumped from, I don't know about school grades in America, sorry, be patient with me, but we went from, Italian of 14 years old to Italian of 20 years old. Huh. This is great, Francesco, we did it."
Yeah.
So this is happening. And I think it's very interesting to go behind the scenes and know what the data scientists are doing, what the computational linguists are working on, what gives them pleasure and satisfaction.
Well, that's great. That's great. Thank you so much for covering those different aspects. I really appreciate it.
So then, Francesco, I have one kind of wrap up question, and then if you want to make any final comments at the end, feel free to do so. But I'd like to know, this is such a fast evolving field right now, and everyone's got all kinds of thoughts about AI and content generation. I'd like to know from you one thing that most people believe is true about AI content generation, but you take a very contrarian view about it, and I think it's not true at all.
Yeah, so you see, I think a system that just helps you create an article is just some very basic task that don't really gives you a proper idea what you can do with these models. They're so powerful. You can do incredible things. And I think for large businesses, I mean, million URL websites, 100 million companies in the Italian market. So everything is different in the United States on a global scale. But they got a different set of problems. They don't want you to create one article for them. They want to manage 1 million hotels, product listing. So I think there's so much that will come to the market in the next few years, because, when I came to the company, I told the founder, I don't really want to do an AI copywriting assistant, Massimiliano. This is so basic. Who cares about this? Let's go after, affiliation. Let's go after hotel businesses. Let's go after e-commerce. And so I think there's a lot that's going to come to the market in terms of specialized pipelines and companies.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Francesco. I really appreciate it on the podcast. It was a great interview today.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you for hosting me. It's great to be here with you.
And thank you to our audience for joining us today. We'll see you next time.